Hello and welcome to one of my first projects in C++. This one's called Netrunner, and it is based it works within the in CMD in the developer console, um, and basically it just runs within the console. It's a very simple game, and the idea is that you're a hacker and you need to figure out the correct code to progress. You have a few clues to kind of figure it out. So you know that the code contains three numbers, and the code will add up to three. In this instance, there are actually like 5 levels, so it does get harder over time. Um, and it also tells you what all the codes, if you multiply them together, equal. So this one's really easy. So in this example, obviously, the code adds up to three, and if the code is multiplied by itself, all the different codes, then it will equal 1. So pretty sure that the codes are 1, 1, 1. Boom. There we go. And we get a little response saying, "Nice hacking, my friend. You're one step closer to destroying the corporations for good." Um, as you can see, like we then, it comes back to the main screen. You get another chance, and we're then looking at a harder level. So this is level 2. And you might be able to see here highlighted that the level's changed. It says level 2 now. Um, and also the task has got harder. We know there's three numbers again, but actually it adds up to 8, and when it's multiplied by each other, it will equal 18. So that is like a basic overview of the game. I'm now going to go into the code and show you a little bit about how I went about doing this. This project really for me is a way of trying to learn some of the basics of object-oriented programming within C++. I have done it in JavaScript and a little bit of C Sharp, but C++ is new to me, so this has just been a little learning project. Okay, so now we can hop into the code. We can have a bit of a look at how this all works. So at the beginning, we're printing out our kind of introduction to the player, and here we have just a brief overview of what the game is, and trying to give it a bit of setting to make it a bit more interesting because it is a simple game. You'll notice here that we've got difficulty here, um, which is something that is kind of input when the level changes. Um, which is kind of cool because it means that when a player completes a level, this will automatically update when they start the new level and kind of show them how they're progressing. We've also got here, we're kind of defining kind of the generation of the three codes. So we use like a random rand like modulo kind of function, which basically will take a range of numbers. In this instance, from the difficulty. Now, if the difficulty is 1, if it's level 1, then we're going to end up with 1, 1, 1 in this instance for 1 for each code. We then need to think about, okay, well, how are we going to kind of store the answer? So here, what we're doing is we're creating a sum, and we call it code sum, which is where we add up the three codes. So in this example, it would be 3. It would be 1 plus 1 plus 1. And then here we've got another integer kind of variable that's going to contain the three codes multiplied by each other. These are really useful because we're going to use these to kind of print out to the player a little bit later on, kind of what the sum is when they're added together and what it is when they're multiplied together, to kind of help them figure out the answer. So following this bit, we're going to go on to this piece of code, and here, this is what the player's actually going to be seeing that kind of gives them the hints on how to solve the problem. So here we say the code contains three numbers, and then we sort of highlight that the codes are going to add up to the code sum, and the code sum is up here. It's this process that we've done before. Similarly, we're kind of putting the code product here, which is where they're multiplied, so that user can kind of see what's expected of them to figure out. Following this, we kind of set up the process of how the user can actually input their guesses. So in this example, we kind of defined 3 forms of guesses: guess A, B, C, and then we use std cin, which basically allows the user to input their guesses. So in this case, they can input guess A, guess B, and guess C. Um, we're then kind of creating an integer that's gonna variable that's gonna hold like the guess that they've made when they're added up and when they're multiplied by each other. The idea of this is so that we can actually compare the guess sum later on and the code sum. It also means that we can compare the guess product from the user to the code product, which is a way of kind of comparing kind of the real result and the user result, and that way we can kind of find out if they figured it out. And this is done here, so we've got an if statement where we're saying if guess sum is equal to code sum and the guess product is equal to the code product, then we're going to print out to the console, nice hacking, my friend, you're one step closer to destroying the corporations for good. And then you return true. And basically, returning true basically is going to signal to the game that they've passed that level and they can move on. We've also put an else statement in just to give them back some feedback and say, hey, you didn't figure it out, but try again. And then we return false, and it kind of resets back to kind of the previous kind of test. And then this is basically just handling level difficulty. So we start off at a level difficulty of 1, and we kind of create a variable for it. We also create a max difficulty, which is like how many levels it can go up to. And then we're saying sort of while the level difficulty is lower than the max difficulty, then we're going to run this code, and it's going to keep looping until all the levels are done. And what it's going to do is, like, when the level's complete, it's going to go back to play game, and it's going to pass over the new difficulty, and it's going to populate that in here, in this difficulty bit here. So it will change the level at that point. It's also going to clear the it's going to clear kind of the errors, and then it's going to move on. So it's then, you know, if the level's complete, it's then going to add the next number to the level. It's going to increase the difficulty. And if you fully complete the game, if you've managed to do all of it, you get a little fancy message saying, "Well done, Netrunner. The evil corporations have been toppled. You have saved humanity." So that is my little overview of Netrunner, which has been a lot of fun to make, and a good little project to just start getting to grips with the basics of some of the core principles of object-oriented program within C++. So yeah, thank you for listening.